This week's theme on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast is 5 reasons to retire as early as you can. Today, I'm talking about a very common reason why people continue to work well into their retirement years, but few people will ever admit this out loud. And that is for ego, pride. You may tell yourself that you don't have enough saved yet, when in reality, you have far in excess of what you need to maintain a comfortable lifestyle. Many people that have good jobs, maybe in a respected career, you continue working because deep down, you may not want to admit this. You may not want to actually look introspectively, and this may rub you the wrong way a little bit, but many people, many of you listening even, are chasing the power, the prestige, the wealth, the excess wealth even that comes with your title, your position, and continuing to work. Now, I work with a lot of business owners, and this can be a problem for lots of different people, but I find that it's a problem for business owners in particular, because in their world, they're the boss. They're used to having respect. They're used to making decisions that carry weight. If they're successful, which many of them are, they're making a high income, and they just like being the boss. And oftentimes, their entire identity and self-worth can also be tied to who they are and what they do at work. And this is not a good situation to be in at any time, but especially as you approach retirement, because now you're stuck. If your entire self-worth and identity is tied to this profession and who you are in the working world, and you want the power and the prestige and the wealth that comes with that title and that position, how can you then step away from that? And so I think that's why you see a lot of people, they may not want to admit it, but they're still grinding it out at 40, 50, 60 hours a week, well past their enjoyment or their need to work. It's sort of like the foolish man who built his house on sand rather than on a solid foundation like rock. Okay, this is a common theme you hear about. It's from the Bible, but the sand is this false identity of who you are and your value that's all tied up in what you've accomplished and the title on your business card. Now, I want to be careful about this because there are plenty of reasons to continue working past the point that you've achieved financial independence. The first person that comes to mind here is Elon Musk. I don't understand the inner workings of his brain, but he's doing some pretty cool things. And yeah, he could retire. He could have retired well before he started Tesla or SpaceX, or any of his other little pet projects that he's doing. And so I'm not suggesting that as soon as you get to financial independence or as soon as you get to having enough that you should retire. I'm just saying you want to be careful about the reasons why you're continuing to work. Another aspect that I think is important to keep in mind is something that I'm tempted by too. And that is whenever I'm tempted to pursue something because I think it might help my standing in the eyes of the world, or I'm doing it maybe for conflicted reasons, I try to think about it from the perspective of memento mori. It means remember your death. And it's a concept that, as far as I know, goes back hundreds, if not 1,000 years or more in the Christian tradition, but it's gaining some popularity more among non-Christians and Christians alike. And basically, remember your death. It means remember you are going to die. And what it does is it helps you keep the right priorities in focus. The other thing too is that no one living 100 years from now is going to remember me or listen to this podcast, or no one's going to visit your grave after maybe 1 or 2 generations. So 100 years from now, all of us listening, no one living on planet Earth will even know that we existed. And that's a very sobering, but also a very important thought. And so too often we'll do things and make big sacrifices for really our own ego or to feel important or to build a legacy. But again, after a couple generations, we're all going to be forgotten anyways. So any power, prestige, or excess wealth that you may be trying to accumulate by working longer is usually not worth it and could only be furthering that house that you're building on sand. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.